You're listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers.
Presented by CMH Heli Skiing and Peak Performance.
The Low Pressure Podcast is sponsored by CMH Heli Skiing, where you can choose from 11 unique locations and experiences, including 4, 5, 6, and 7-day signature trips, the brand new single-day trips. You can do small groups with just you, 4 friends, and a guide, or the private and exclusive, where you get the whole place just to yourself. So find your next adventure at cmhheli.com. The Low Pressure Podcast is also sponsored by Peak Performance. There are many ways to make it down a mountain, but the best line is your line. And the adventure is there, so make it yours. Visit peakperformance.com and get the gear to unlock your free ride spirit. All right. Nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming by. The new, workout guru of the Sea to Sky professional skiers and snowboarders.
Trying. Yeah.
So we just said it. I just need to get it right because I may have gotten it wrong. I think Siri has told me it's 3 or 4 different ways. Is it Dania Assaly?
Assaly. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. But like I was saying, over the years, it's been a lot of different things.
Especially
early years competing, it was like Dania Assaly and like Dania Assaly and just like a million different ways. I was Diana a lot.
Diana Assaly.
And I was like, just look at where the I is placed. But, you know.
When you go to Starbucks, do they actually get your name right?
No, often it's just with a T.
Tanya.
Dana or Tanya.
Mm.
So now when people don't know how to say Dania, I'm like, it's like Tanya with a D.
Did you ever think about, if you ever decided to go into crime, what your what your second passport would say, or your alias would be? Something similar, but a little different.
But people are like, well, what's your alter ego? Because if I'm out partying, there's definitely a.
Oh, do you have a party name?
Well, I'm Brittany.
Brittany?
Yeah, it's just commonplace. Everybody knows that I'm Brittany.
Why?
Because I just grew up loving Britney Spears. Mm-hmm. Every contest I was in, if Luke Van Valen was on the mic announcing, he'd make the DJ play Britney when I dropped in. It was like my lucky charm. So I was just, Britney came out. I dance on speakers. I had to have my space.
Right.
At a club. I couldn't be in the floor with everyone else. I was up on something.
So you needed to be seen. Where's the spotlight?
Well, exactly. Unfortunately, I do like the center of attention.
That's not so bad a thing. All right. So for those of you that may not know you, you kind of were one of the pioneers of women's slope, women's half pipe, back in, I guess, in the early days with the Kristi Leskinens and Sarah Burks and the,
those were the 2 girls we kind of had to inspire us. And
right. Those are the ones you were gunning for, trying to beat, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool because back, I guess it was probably when I was in high school, 2002-3 was when I kind of started to get into skiing. Mm-hmm. We did a lot more moguls, and then big air and half pipe kind of became a thing. Not so much
without having to put an age on you. What years were these?
These 2002 to 5. So I'm 36.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah. So that's why.
I said, "Oh wow," because you're
freewheeling,
share. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So it's because you couldn't ask that question.
I was 15, 16 when I got into the idea of freestyle skiing.
Right.
And then that was when Sarah and Kristi were in all the movies. And then our first summer camp up here was when I was 16. And
Momentum?
Sarah coached me at Momentum.
Oh, no way.
And it was the greatest week ever. And I remember the next summer I came back, and every trick that I do, she was kind of watching out of the side of her eye and be like, nice 7, Dania. And I'm like, oh my God. And then we competed together that year for the first time, and I won.
No way.
And it was the only time in my career I ever beat Sarah. And
really?
It was the scariest moment. Because I was like, oh my God, what if I screwed our friendship up? I was I want to be her friend. I don't care if I win.
My hero. I'm now my hero's arch nemesis.
Yeah, I remember I have a podium shot. I'll try to find it. And I'm smiling, and she's looking at me like this. Because Sarah liked to win,
Right.
The look she was giving me was pretty classic. But then, of course, she became a big sister. So, yeah, so that was kind of I'd like to say probably because not a lot of girls out there probably know who the heck I am now. That definitely was the pioneer OG days.
Yeah, back in the other days, like paving the way.
Yeah.
Right? So did Sarah end up becoming like a kind of a mentor for you? Like you said, big sister?
Yeah, because we didn't really ever have a Canadian team until she kind of came to our coach Trennan Painter at the time and said, we were at World Championships in Finland when I was like 17, and she's like, I want to be a part of this team. I'm Canadian. So that's when our team got formed. And it was just like, started kind of with me and Roz and Sarah and the boys. And then she just, for sure, the reason I kept wanting to come back to the team was because she was on it, and I just learned so much. She was an advocate for anybody pushing themselves, so it was like, come on, girls, like, let's do new stuff together. That was, right. I think, what was so cool about it.
And, like, everybody talks about her influence on getting, you know, the sport into the Olympics and, you know, just creating a little bit more of a higher profile for it. Yeah. But it really goes so much deeper to, like...
And so much further back.
Yeah, to, like, hey, I want to be on the team. Can you make it... You know, can we make some spaces for the girls, please?
Totally.
Like, really, she really started it.
Yeah. And back then it was like completely unequal, talking about where we're at now for women and men in the sport. Like, we were all hitting the same course, and sure, we took a bit longer back then to get where we are now, but we didn't have airbags and foam pits and stuff to do it on. So it was like, it's just the times, but... Yeah, fighting for anything close to equal prize money too. It
wasn't even remotely close.
Not even close.
Like you sent me a photo of you looking like early 2000s skier boy.
WSI, yeah, definitely
with a first place check for $2,000.
Yeah, and the boys were getting 15. It's like, what?
Right.
Yeah, so it was different, but
is it? I haven't seen kind of what prizes are lately. Now that FIS is kind of running the show. Yeah. They're probably closer, if not the same.
They're the same.
They are the same now?
They're the same. And I think it's fair, and the sport is a lot closer too. Like, women's skiing used to progress at a level where, like, I had quite a few injuries over my career and I could come back and, like, jump back in. Whereas now it's like, must be next to impossible for girls to have a season out and try to catch back up. Because it's just like the progress is crazy.
I've been thinking about that with, like, Cassie Sharp, right?
Yeah.
You know, she's on top of her game, crushing it. She's like, I'm going to have a kid. I'm like,
she'll come back and she'll crush it again.
You think so?
I think halfpipe is a different level than slopestyle. I think halfpipe is, as a halfpipe skier myself, like the level of fear and the potential to injure is like, it's pretty high risk.
It takes a special type of human for that, you know?
Yeah. So you see girls doing doubles and triples on jumps right now, but not in a half pipe. There is a reason. Yeah. But I think that Cassie could still come back and be one of the first to do that. Like, she came back after 10 months out of a knee surgery and got silver at the Olympics.
Right,
The girl's pretty top notch. Like, she's pretty badass. So I think she'll be okay, but you're right. Having a kid, taking another year, it's hard. The Eileen Goos of the world are...
She's a freak,
leveled up.
She's a freak of a human. She's like, in the fact that she's like a supermodel.
I know.
World-class supermodel. Yeah. She's a Red Bull athlete, gold medalist, Olympian, and she's studying neuroscience in school all at the same time. She's a freak of a human. She
doesn't make sense.
No, that's definitely not... It's definitely
I get to meet her someday, because, you know, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, right? Just, I'm going to steal your secrets. Just like... Yeah. Going like, what's that movie where they like steal the life force out of people? They like suck the life force
I don't know, but yeah, but it's also a good push for a lot of other people too. It's like, okay, we're still...
Well, look what's possible, right? Like, good for her. Like, I'm not knocking her at all, but it's just like,
it's wild.
Set the bar a little higher, why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. I know. I talked to some of the girls I grew up competing with, you know, Jen Hudak and Kristi and Anjali, and all of us are like... Anais, like all of us that kind of skied halfpipe.
Right,
like,
right.
Holy.
What's happening?
I remember getting like a 4 running spot at X Games the first year, and I did a 1080 at the bottom.
Right.
Because I just used figure skate. Spinning was not hard.
Right.
It was just, I mean, it was probably ugly. It was probably very figure skater style in the beginning, but I remember everyone was like, what just happened? Like, are you going to do that next year if you're invited? And you're like, well, yeah, a lot of girls are spinning a lot of rotations, but then it wasn't so much, maybe. There was a lot of 5s and a lot of 7s all on the same wall. Now, if you're not back-to-back tricking, you're not. going to competition.
I've had this conversation a couple times, I think, with like Burke Irving and I think with Alex Hall in past episodes. Like, super pipe nowadays is getting to the point where, like, we talk about accessibility and you know, in skiing, like there's only a handful of people in the world that have the ability to get to a point where they can train
in a 22-foot pipe
and then have access to a 22-foot pipe in order to do those things in the first place. So it's like, you know, half pipe is going to be one of those things where like Whistler doesn't have a pipe anymore.
Yep. I wish they did. That was a fun one, actually. I liked that pipe.
But there isn't a lot of access for just kids that want to be like, hey, can I do this? Oh, I'm getting pretty good at this. And then find their way. Like the funnel into that system is shrinking.
It's very shrinking. And even Park City, like they had one of the best pipes, but they rarely groomed it because there just wasn't enough people skiing in the half pipe.
Right.
I lived there for 7 years and I barely ever got in that thing.
You lived in Park City for 7 years?
I did.
When was that?
Well, I went to Salt Lake because after high school, I wanted to be a ski bum.
Right.
And I blew my knee that summer at summer camp, which was unfortunate, but it also lit this fire. So I stayed home, went to college. And then when I was like, I can't be a ski bum being from Edmonton, Alberta. Like, what am I going to do here? So my dad was like, as long as you go to school. Right. I think he just didn't want me to come to Whistler and party my years away. So I went to Utah.
And you're like, I'll just wait a few years?
Yeah. And Ian Costco actually was my best friend at the time. And he moved there. He was dating Ashley Battersby. I don't know if you remember way back that far.
I do. She's a trainer now too, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
And so I went down there and lived with them. And it was so good. The best choice ever. Because every single person that lived there at the time, the Tom Wallishes of the world, all the girls I was riding with, Ashley, we all were going to university. It's where I met Greta, and I think all of our parents were like, as long as you're going to school and getting educated, and that seemed like the best place to go. So
yeah, what did you take?
Yeah, I was in exercise and sports science.
Oh, so it worked out.
It worked out.
Hey, way to go, Mom and Dad.
Nice and Utah was fun. Everyone's like, well, Utah, like what a different culture. I'm like, not really when you're a ski bum. You just go to house parties and
it's like a city with a.
It is.
But also like a ski town, but it's a city that's a ski town. You know, I heard
and it's half an hour from every mountain.
Right, and it's so the same here. Like people in Pemberton have to drive half an hour to the mountains, or Squamish, it's 40 minutes.
100%.
You know?
And I was in Vancouver for 9 years, and then had to do the hour and a half. But it just kind of becomes second nature. So yeah, Utah.
Interesting. I've heard a lot of people being like stoked on living in Utah for the access, but then also like I hate living in Utah because it's Utah.
I know, but
I never
it's
lived
pretty
there, so.
cool. I mean, I recommend going there over a lot of places I've been in the States because it's beautiful like all year round.
Right.
So I'd always have to come home in the summers to work. Usually that meant like coaching in Whistler or Mount Hood or whatever. But those were the days. Mount Hood was crazy back then.
When they had a good snow.
Yeah. So much to learn all summer. You'd be there for like 4 months just learning tricks.
Were you coaching there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first year I went, just like tried to work for free, like help out in the snack shack and then go ski. But then they realized none of the coaches skied half pipe. So they're like, do you want to actually just from 1 to 3 teach kids how to do pipe stuff? And I was like, okay. It worked out really good for me. And then the border people didn't scare me. I wasn't like making American dollars, you know?
Thinking like the snow. I was like, is it snowboarders or is it like border patrol?
No, the border patrol people. There was a lot of questions back and forthing back then. Whew.
Even now.
Oh, it's scary.
Right.
It's scary. And then they'd be like, well, you were a student and now you're not. Why are you coming back? You're like, this is where the contests are.
To go skiing, dude.
You know?
Yeah.
They didn't really care.
There was someone that came across the border recently, and she was at the border just to come skiing.
Yeah.
She called another friend of ours. I was like, hey, what do I say? What do I do?
Yeah, because you don't want to say the wrong thing.
No, because they know they're coming up here just to go skiing, right?
Yeah.
Like you, as this pro skier or whatever, like you get your money from your companies that live in the States.
Yeah.
And you're not coming up here to like do an hourly shift or earn a wage.
Yeah, they don't like it.
It's just part of like the overall
job
description is I go skiing. That's how
I go skiing. Yeah, and it's even back then, like before you're really getting paid. Like later I got like a athlete visa because we were on a team and the Olympics came around and that made everything easier. But back then you didn't really think about that. I remember the border patrol once we were on an Armada trip and we flew to Spokane and then drove over to go to Retallick.
Right.
And I was in the car with like Chris O'Connell and a couple of the other filmer guys, and we're driving back over. And they made me call my bank because they didn't believe that I could live in the States off of money that I already had. They thought I was lying. I was like, no, I literally am not working here. We're going to ski. But it was a scary time.
You had to call the bank?
Yeah. The bank had to tell the Border Patrol that I had enough money in my account to live off.
What?
It was psychotic. I was like, this is not a thing. And pretty embarrassing. You're like... But I was also, it was like me and Riley Lebo, and we were like the only Canadians in the car.
Right.
And
did he have to call his bank?
No,
too?
he did not. I don't know why. Maybe because I was back and forth and he met us in Canada. I don't know. It was crazy. Anyway, wild times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you know what? I hear a lot of those stories are still kind of happening today. Like, I know a bunch of athletes will have like a Nexus pass now.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was kind of like when adventure sports and X Games was really first starting to take off, when like for you to be a professional like athlete or alternative athlete other than like a pro sports team something like that, they're like, what?
They didn't really know how to navigate that very well.
Yeah, what are you? Like, what do? You do what?
Yeah. Oh, one time they Googled me for 2 hours. Just for fun. They just made me sit there while they looked me up on the internet to make sure I wasn't lying. I'm like,
Did you ever do any of like the old school like free ski, like bikini ski photos or anything like that?
I didn't. I was never in those magazines with like the skis crossed over my boobs.
Yeah.
And I think it's because Sarah always was like, I wish I never did that.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about too, because I know when it first came out, I had a friend send me a message like, check it out, Sarah Burke's on free skier with her tits out, and I was like, what? And then like further down the way, I know they were doing like 10 hottest girls in skiing listicles and stuff. I remember Lindsay Dyer like losing her shit and like totally ripping them apart, and everyone started to jump on board. And that was kind of the first time where I guess the cultural shift was finally like, hey, this isn't cool. But I never talked to her about it. Some
people I think enjoyed doing it. Like, I don't know if there was ever a moment where it was like, oh, so much regret around that. But I think that we all saw that shift happen where it wasn't so like females in female sport, like in male dominated sports, let's sexualize it. Like, that's not really a thing anymore unless
it's different now.
It's different.
It's changed.
It's different.
It's changed because now it's in your hands.
There is an issue right now, I think, with influencers getting to take over what actual skiers should be doing.
Right.
And a snowboard guy made a comment when he won an award at IF3, and we were all like, yes. And it was just this cheering moment of like, stop promoting social influencers to be doing what our athletes can be doing.
Dude from the Man Boys.
Yes. Yeah, and I just was like, amen to that, because, you know, there's badass skier chicks out there, and start using that to your advantage instead of hiring these models who they can kind of ski and it's great, but like
they can kind of ski. That's the best way to put it.
Let's not go that way, right? So I think there is a shift, and more people are recognizing that as something that we need to cut out. Mm-hmm. But I kind of came in more when they were prioritizing like women of free skier and actually making ski articles and like shutting down Hood for us for a few days to like shoot on all the features and do all the.
And that's sweet, but then you get like those magazines that kind of like undercut all of that, right? Take
100%,
right? And like, I wanted to ask you about that because I knew Sarah wasn't super stoked on it. Afterwards, you know, and like you were close to her and you've heard that opinion. I wanted to hear kind of like your opinions on that. And you kind of just covered it, but that it's been a funny curve because back then, you know, skiing, like the girls were starting to finally make their way into skiing. They're finally getting their chance in those early 2000s.
Yeah.
But then, and because they were becoming a little bit more prominent, you know, those publications were still like, oh, let's get her in a bikini. Like, oh, let's show Sarah instead of showing the skiing.
Michelle Parker. She was like doing a bikini thing too, and I just think of Michelle now, and I'm like,
never in a million years.
Must have just not really had the choice. Like, maybe you have the choice, but you didn't know you did as you do today.
Well, when you're
right?
when you're in your early 20s, and they're like, hey, we're gonna get you a shot, like a cover shot on or a cover feature
whatever it
on
is.
So and so magazine. They're like, sweet, all right, but here, put this on.
I think Sarah was disappointed because it's the first Google picture that popped up for a while, right? She's like, that's not what I want people to think of me. Right. But yeah, it is becoming better. I think more people are taking advantage of using their athletes for all purposes rather than.
I guess that was kind of like the first clickbait before there was clicks.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, that's how you're going to sell magazines.
Google came out first, and
And then so we came through that stage where that was a thing, and then it got shut down hard, and then we went 5 to 10 years of like, all right, now it took a long time. Still, it was still a slow grind.
Yeah.
Where you're finally being, given the attention for your merits.
Totally.
Like they're good skiers. Look at what they're doing. Look how they're pushing the sport. And now you get to a point kind of now where the bikinis are coming back, but it's from a different point of view.
Right.
It's like the girls are now choosing to do that. And it's not necessarily the girls that have their skill. It's the ones that are approaching it from the clickbait, the attention-seeking kind of way, where, like you said, maybe they're not the greatest skiers. Maybe they're those influencers, but they're going to get the attention, right? And they're going to get the brand deals, and they're going to get the whatever, because not necessarily of what they do on their skis, but
and freedom of choice. It's good. I think that having social media so at our fingertips right now, though, is really, you have to choose what you want your persona to be, to the world. Like, your people that follow you are going to see your day to day. And if you're your authentic self and you're showing every bit about what you're doing, I think that's great. I think people that choose to post something that's a little bit more like, maybe not their personality, but just their career and what they do and what appeals to the people that follow, that's also great. So I think social media can be so good and so bad in a lot of ways, but it has to be how you choose to, have people perceive you. And I'm learning that just through my job now. Right. Not so much in the ski days, but just as a personal trainer, it's like, I don't really want to be an influencer, so I don't want to wear the matching outfits. And everyone's like, well, if you just, get the shot here so you get a little butt and this and that. I'm like, that's just not me. Right. I don't ever want to be that. I want to get business. I want to be business driven. Right. But it's like, but then how do you get the business and the followers? So it is a very complicated system, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, let's talk.
You have good tips for me, but
I don't have any tips. Just a couple suggestions, but those were more like, I think they weren't like suggestions of how to present yourself.
No, it was like, here's where you can brand, how you can brand to get more attention.
Yeah, I think it was more skiers. Like this. These are the tool. This is a better way of using the tool based on what I see you presenting.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like, oh, I didn't tell you, like, hey, there's this sweet new Gymshark
in a good way.
There's a sweet new Gymshark 2-piece that you should wear that I think will really make your eyes pop.
If there's going to be a time to get skiers on board, you were like, here's how you should talk about your app you're using, because people don't know. Right. So it's all good suggestions.
And it comes a lot. That came from not necessarily like wanting to be like, hey, you need to do this better, but it was like, I had questions. Yeah. And I was like, how does this work? Yeah. And I had to call you and be like, hey, do you do this or do you do that? I'm like, well, I need to know how that happens. Like, if you're putting an app out, people want to see your information.
And how it's being used.
And you've got 5 seconds maybe before they flip. So you've got them for 5 seconds, and then in the next 10 seconds you got to keep them there again, and then you got to keep them for the next 10 seconds again. Yeah. And it's just a matter of,
if it's too long and it has to be short, and anyway, I'm learning.
Yeah.
It's good.
So am I. It's one of those things where it's so funny. Like, I'll see somebody's, I'll see what someone else has put out, and I'll instantly know, oh, okay, I know how I would improve this so that it would appeal to me. Yeah. But then when I look at my own stuff, I don't have a fucking idea what I'm doing. I have no idea. I know. I have no idea where it's like, is this working? Because that's how my brain thinks. Yeah. But I don't see it from that third party point of view. So every once in a while I need someone to be like, hey man, like, give me your feedback.
Yeah. And it's word of mouth, and that's how you spread the business and the love and all the things. And I'm thankful there's still, I don't know, access to real life stuff, and you can kind of meet people, networking, and especially since I came from a ski background, it's nice to still have the IF3s of the world and ski movie festivals and all the things that bring everyone back together, because it actually still connects me to the skiers. Because I stopped competing in 2014. Like, I kind of did a few more trips the year after, and 9 Queens I went to back to a bunch. Yeah. And like, those were the funnest, because you just get to be there, and it feels like there's no pressure. Everything kind of turns into a contest eventually, but there you just felt like you were with all your friends back in Europe. And I think like a lot has changed.
What are the dresses called that you guys wore?
Those drundles. So much fun. And I have to be honest, I guess moving back into skiing a bit is like, we really, I think, had these like golden years of just having the ability to travel with our friends, stay with whoever you wanted, be on the road for a while. There wasn't just contest to contest to contest and FIS and Olympics and
traveling
teams.
with your specific team, right?
It was crazy when that all started happening. And I just remember being like, I don't like this anymore. Like it brought out this side that felt so inauthentic to why we started.
Right. And so talk about that, because you were there right at the crux.
Yeah.
Right at this changeover. Were you part of the fuck fist crew, or like
I
not as
don't
vocal?
want to say I was, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't. I think I was deemed a half pipe skier, but you'd never catch me in a pipe unless I was competing, because that shit was scary. For a while it was fun. You get broken enough times.
How did you train?
I mean, on jumps, back then, it's like if I wanted to learn a trick first time, I'd go hit a jump and be like, okay, I'll take it to the half pipe. It's different, but we didn't have like foam pits and airbags.
No.
And so I remember just even wanting to learn to cork my nines instead of do a straight one, because who wants to do that in a half pipe? But
yeah, who wants to do that?
Yeah, so learning all of that usually was first there, or I just wanted to ski with my friends and film and have fun and play. Mm-hmm. And besides like a few very, very close friends on the half pipe circuit, a lot of the people that I lived and played with in Utah and Colorado were slope skiers.
Right.
So we would film together and all that. So when eventually I did blow my knee like 2 years in a row, it was a little rough. And one was the year before the Olympics. And I remember coming back and being like, I don't know if I want to go for half pipe. Like, I just want to keep my body in one piece and just ski and have fun.
Because the half pipe, like, a mistake is pretty consequential.
Very consequential.
Yeah.
Consequential. Very consequential.
Right.
And so I think slope style, to me, there was like more fear around the rails. The jumps I could just hit all day. I loved it.
Right.
And so I chose to instead be like, well, I do want to go to the Olympics. Maybe I'll just try for slope. But I remember there was so little support, because I was like, I don't want to be on the half pipe team anymore. Mm-hmm. The slope style team was like, nope, we've already got our people. I'm like, well, I'm still Canadian, you know? So I remember one year, all of us coachless kids, like it was me, Anjali, a couple other people, and there was Ocho. I don't know if you ever met him, but he was the man. He was our coach in New Zealand. And we had the funnest time. And I did pretty well. I got like 5th, and I was like, okay, maybe I could do this. Went to the Do Tour. Dan Skivenson was like, I'll get you in, no problem. So he got me into that. And it was like a really bad weather day, as it classically is for a women's contest. Mm-hmm. And the Canadian team would not talk to me. No one would help me with my skis. It was just like, if you're not on the team, we don't care. You could go to the Olympics. It just felt so sad.
Was it like this girl's a threat and she could take my place kind of a reason for the avoidance?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it was more just like, well, you haven't been with us so far, so.
Right.
But back then, if you weren't a part of a team, you didn't really have your usual network of friends around you. And you didn't have your ski tech, and you didn't, it was pretty bougie by then. And I think that kind of made me just feel like maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I just ski because I love it, and I've had so much fun over the years. And I wasn't competitive with anyone but myself, so it kind of felt like it'd be okay if I just started to play and go to things like Nine Queens and get Anna, Siegel, and Tatum on a trip to Retallick and do a shoot for Forecast. And that's kind of where my head started going, instead of like the Olympics, which was fine.
Yeah.
The people that I was closest with, most of them were, Jen Hudak didn't go, Carrie didn't go, I didn't go. There was people that did, and that's great. But a lot of us that grew up for as long as we did, our bodies were like, you're done.
Right.
It was 2014, and we started hardcore in the early 2000s, so that's a long time.
I don't think you're one of those people. Do you ever think back, like, man, if I was 5 years later, do you ever do that? Like,
I think
what my life could have been.
The Olympics were in 2010.
Right.
Like we were maybe going to be. That would have been huge. Right. That would have been so many of our years.
In Canada, right? But it wasn't until the following year that it was.
A lot of us were pretty bummed because, Sarah, Jen, me, we were all like not saying that we were older. Like, I think I was still like 28 or 9 when I stopped, but it would have been nice to have that opportunity because there was a teaser of it, but then we never really got to do it. So that's okay. But yeah, if I was 5 years later, also the sport would have been already different. So I think I'm glad I got it when I did, and it was fun every single day.
Right.
I don't remember ever being at the top of a course and being scared or nervous. I just was like, look at what we get to do. You know, people were still smoking weed and dropping in. Like, sorry about it. Like, it's true. You know, now it's like people hunt you down to test you for that stuff. And it's like, oh, yeah, we had it pretty good.
Yeah, pretty loose.
You know?
Yeah, like, good times, though.
Good times, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I love that point of view where you're just like, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And then, so you stepped away from that. When did you start coaching? Because, like, you've coached some of the current best skiers in the world too. Like, so what is it, last year at Momentum we were chatting with Maggie and she's like, she's my coach. Maggie just won female skier of the year
when she was 11
years old.
I coached her at Mount Hood.
Maggie Voisin.
And she was like just this cute, she was a figure skater too, so she just sevens all day like a top. And I remember a couple years later she started competing with us, and I was so happy because she was young, but she was just so excited and so happy to be there. And she started getting really big sponsors, and she'd like have a chairlift chat with me and be like, I just feel like I'm supposed to impress and do this. I'm like, no, they sponsored you. Like you just keep doing you. Right. Don't let that put the pressure on you, because it does get to a lot of, especially women, then you're all of a sudden like, gotta perform. But she also was one of those people that had a ton of injuries, but she always came back and just crushed it. Meghan Oldham, I taught her how to do, and like Elena Gaskell, they came together one summer and we were doing cork sevens.
And it
was when I was still like doing cork sevens, and I was like, okay, girls, just follow me. And we're all just hot lapping, and they were killing it. And now look at Meghan doing the first triple. It's like, that actually blows my mind. Mm-hmm. I still message her and I'm like, this is insane. Like, you know, and they're young. They're just so young. And it's so cool seeing the progression of this sport. It's absolutely crazy.
Right. Where do you think it can go from here?
I mean, only up with the opportunities that we have to ski all year round in different places with airbags set up at the bottom of any jump, any half pipe. It's like,
it's so crazy.
I remember jumping into an airbag and I was like, no, thank you. That hurts. I don't want to do it.
It
seems scary, but now they have those sloped ones, and I'm like, okay, this. Yeah,
that's right. Sense. Even there's a progression of the airbags still too, right?
So I think it can only go up, and I think there's more women lighting fires of, you know, like how Sarah used to. It's like if somebody's learning a new trick, everybody wants them to learn that new trick,
right?
And so, yeah, and I think with funding, it's easier for people to travel. Like it might be harder with the limited spots at big contests for women to get in, besides just the FIS and then going to the Olympics. Like the Olympics, you see all these women, you're like, who are they? But it's because at the bigger contests, there's more room. X Games, there's still like 8 people.
Right.
Even back in my day, it was hard. And there wasn't even more than 8 of us. Like, it was still hard to get into the contest. But there was more small. I remember moving to Utah the first year, and I thought, I'm going to compete in every single contest that I can so that I can go to X Games. And there was so many. There was Big Bear Open, Mount Snow Open, Aspen Open, all these little contests that you could do well. And they'd look at those and be like, okay, let's get her in.
And they don't have those anymore, which is a huge bummer.
Sucks.
Right?
Imagine, I'm like, probably so many people haven't been to Big Bear.
Right?
That place is the bomb. So, yeah.
And even like just smaller, like I was talking to Jeff Hull about this, and like he used to go around Quebec to like a rail jam every weekend. Oh man. Just random hills, random small little Quebec resorts down in like Vermont or whatever, just hitting little rail jams over and over and over, just while it was getting started. And even those like smaller competitions don't really exist as much anymore.
Yeah, I don't see it a lot, but
also I think
it's also governed different. Right. Now it's like the Olympics is the goal. So
now in recent years there's more kind of like, I think rider led kind of jams really more than anything.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of like the counter to what's happening now. So everything's like cyclical, right? It started out like that, and then it got super strict, and everybody's kind of stepping back.
Totally.
And like doing their own thing.
Yeah, and it's where those like, you know, Unolson invitationals, like I'm sure those would still be a killer if they were still happening. And that's where 9 Nights kind of like, I think still has the right idea. because it is like a progression session.
Well, they've got that. They've got the Kimbo sessions.
The Kimbos are still going, which is amazing. And like
Jib League.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a few that like the old school guys are continuing to do because we have to. And people from our generation know that. And I think that's why they're
and they know this is what it used to be like.
Exactly.
And this is how fun the sport was.
And we all want to keep it that way.
Yeah, keep it that way, right? So there's that alternative that they're building for themselves, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who on the circuit or who on skiing right now is really kind of catching your eye? Who are you paying attention to?
I mean, those Euro girls are wild. I think we're all like, you know, in the same, I never know what's going to come from Meghan Oldham. I think she's got some stuff up her sleeve and she has no fear. Like, it's so cool to watch. And so, of course, a lot of the Canadians too. But I watch the European girls ski and just like the whole vibe of their skiing. And still, okay, you saw a photo of me. I was like a little boy when I was like, get me the baggiest stuff, like skull candies on, like zipper undone, shit's long. Like I was sponsored by, like, you know, when they're making female stuff and it's too small to wear on like under your butt. So I would just leave them open, shoelaces, like, oh, but I love that there's so many Euro girls that are still just like gangster. I'm like, that's what I like. So there's just something about it, watching them hit rails and like progress that part too. Because jumps, obviously the women are always going to be progressing in that. But I think rails I've always had a fear of. That was never my forte.
Right.
So watching girls that just rip, I'm like, okay, this is amazing, you know? And with that, this is embarrassing to not know her name right now. She's like Bella or something.
Oh, Bella Bacon.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Just started following her and I'm like, what a G.
She's a G.
She's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's cool. So anyway, I'm just learning how to like retract myself from only like being able to watch contests and just, you know, even the girl, like the blondes, come on. We didn't really have an opportunity back then to be in very many ski movies. Like I think of like Sarah, Kristi, Michelle, and Greta. Greta was kind of in the forefront always, I feel like.
She was with Red Bull and stuff.
Yeah,
so
and she had her own movie
and
she always like did the tricks for the magazines and the contest that no one else was doing. And she always had her own thing, but that wasn't very commonplace back then.
Right.
So we just filmed a lot of edits. Like I made an edit probably every single year. Just rallied the troops.
Right when YouTube was early. No one was really getting into it yet, right?
Yeah, I always thought like, well, people won't remember your contest, what you won and when it was, but they'll remember seeing you ski.
Right.
So I always just loved filming.
You were ahead of the game.
I was ahead of the game.
Way ahead of the game.
And you just film on like your actual little Canon, like follow each other around, and those flips that were just
which
handhelds.
Is wild because the kids now are starting to film on those again because they think it's cool and retro.
Right. It's
and
like,
you're just like, I might have one you can have.
I was thinking
in the closet.
about that. I'm like, how do kids remember? You'd be like, yeah, just call me. And I'm like, how do people do that now? Like that or that? Like, how do you hold a fake phone? Call me. Like iPhone speaker.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know how people do that anymore because we're old.
Have you seen any of those like Gen Z memes or things online where the kids like the parents are like grandparents like you should use that, it's like an old rotary phone, and like I don't even know what this is.
Don't have a clue.
Don't even know how to like does it hang up like
I know.
don't understand how a phone works.
I was coaching this summer and I was talking to a group of maybe like 13-year-old boys on the way down. Mm-hmm. And I was asking so many random questions because I'm just like, what do you guys do now? Like, what do you use your phones for? And they're all like, oh, I don't know, Snapchat and this and that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And, you know, what else? Like, is that kind of your main thing? They're like, yeah, we play like video games. I'm like, well, we used to do that too. I'm like, do you guys like, have you ever heard of like dial-up internet? Or I was asking, kind of bringing them back, right? Nobody has a clue what you're talking about.
Right.
They were born in the 2000s. Like,
right.
I kind of like being a part of the...
We are that last generation that like we'd leave the house and no one would know where we were until dinner time, and then
you could sneak out and your parents wouldn't know how to find your phone, you know, like how to follow your friends or whatever.
I don't even I can't imagine like the shit that I look on my phone. I wouldn't let my kid have a phone.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's hard now. I can't imagine being a parent and trying to navigate what like you want your kid to have and not. I don't know. I'll know if I ever get there, but
they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
they're gonna figure it out. All right, so I want to talk to you about Freestyle Fit. We kind of touched on it earlier. So you went to school for that exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what was it called again? Exercise training?
Exercise and sports science.
Okay.
So I just took anatomy, physiology.
Is it like kinesiology kind of thing, or like
that would have gotten me into like a kin degree.
Right.
I came to Vancouver and I actually wanted to do acupuncture. So when I moved here, that's kind of what I had my credits for, and I was like, oh, but I'm not quite done skiing, so I'll just do personal training in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then there was just so much to learn. I kept taking courses and learning more, and then I'm very social, so having that like interaction all day with people is very good for me.
Right. Are you do you, when you go home, does the switch turn off?
No, my boyfriend wishes that was
so
a thing.
for me, like, you know me, I'm pretty out there and like talkative and stuff, but as soon as I'm away from that, I'm like, the switch is off and I'm just here.
I have days, but as most of my friends know, it doesn't really. I need like a constant energy.
You need to steal. It's like you're an energy thief.
100%.
I have a friend who's got a dog. We call her the heat thief because every time you sit, she like scoots right up into your elbow. Just steal your heat. And you're like kind of like this one,
like your dog now. Yeah.
So you're like an energy thief.
I'm an energy thief. I for sure and I gain energy from people.
Right.
So it was tricky. COVID was tricky, but that's kind of where I got more idea to really rebrand myself as a trainer, because
what were you doing before you set up the brand of like Freestyle Fit business?
I worked at Equinox when they first opened in Vancouver. Pretty big gym. And I knew I'd get really good education there. And I was very fresh at being a trainer. It was like a year in. So I went and I knew I'd be there for a year. I come from a very long line of entrepreneurial family members. And so I was like, I just want to be on my own, but I got to learn first. I got to get clients. I got to learn how to sell myself. So I learned all that there. And then I started on my own and it was going really well for a few years. And then COVID hit. And that's when social media for fitness really blew up.
Right.
And we had time. We had all the time in the world. So like I started doing online boot camps. And then when things kind of started opening up, but not group fitness classes, I bought a ton of equipment. I brought 700 pounds of equipment to the beach 4 days a week. It was wild. Like went to Kitts Beach, set it all up. 20 people would come. We'd sweat. I had like Red Truck Brewing sponsor us, Plenty Hard Kombucha. So every Thursday I'd have a social after, and it just brought us like this joy of like fitness and socializing, being in a safe environment because we were outside. We're like, this is sweet. So we did that for like a year, and then I moved them to my yard because I'm like, too much work.
Too much sand and all the equipment.
Lucky I had a yard at the time, so I just set it up like that. And then there was like, the gyms were opening up. So I started doing more like, 8 to 10 people in the yard. And it was still fun. We still did our social. And then I realized as gyms started to become full force again, it's what people want. Like they want to go to a gym and have a shower and like have a sauna, whatever they have. And so that's when I really started being like, I want to make Freestyle Fit more of a programming company. So like now that's where I'm trying to get to with directing my audience to be kind of maybe more athlete, skier, knee rehab, anything that you might need as an athlete, but all you need is an app. And it has videos of me showing you how to do it. It's got like me being in touch with you, sharing a calendar, holding you accountable, and it changes every 6 weeks.
The passive income thing too, right? That's just a smart business decision because you don't have to be there.
I don't have to be there.
Walking people through like a boot camp.
Yeah.
Right? You've got people that are like you're based in the Sea to Sky. You got someone in Chicago or Boston or wherever, and they're like, oh, this is a skier. Oh, she trains some of my favorite skiers. What's this all about?
Yeah.
Click, boom.
And that's what's great.
Money in your account, right?
It's great. And you run out of those ideas, and like, who hasn't had knee problems? So that's also can be general population. But I find skiers are motivated to do the work because they want to stay healthy, but they don't have the ideas on how to match it all up. And that's like being injured over the years skiing is what brought me to want to be a trainer, because I'm like, now I actually appreciate the gym. Yeah. And I know why my body needs it.
So like my like needs when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? Like I've worked out, I've done the CrossFit thing, I've done the mobility work, I've done this, that, and the other. for all the years that I've been doing workouts and doing stuff, I still always feel like I don't know what I'm doing. You know, and I like having, like when I did when I was in CrossFit, this is like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it because I could show up. They're like, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do it. And then I left and I felt great. And then the next day I felt like crap.
Right. Because it breaks you down a little bit.
Because your body's like, oh, but I've never been as strong.
Yeah.
I've never looked as good. So I like being able to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Or have like some sort of accountability.
Yeah.
But I don't like going, and I hate I'm not a morning guy, so I'm not going to work out in the mornings. If someone had a 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. boot camp, I'm in.
And that's like, us trainers are like, we were working at 6 a.m. so we don't want to do that. But here you go.
Nobody does. Yeah, exactly.
Here's what you need.
Right.
And that's why it's great, is because it is personalized. So I'm in constant contact with you, or you can send me a video. Does this look good? Is this the right
So you have like different
form?
tiers where you like set up a program, and then it's like, all right, this person, there's 12. We're going to do however many people sign up. I have this much time. So say 10 people sign up, and you have time to like follow up once a week with those 10 people. Is that what you do?
Yeah. So there's one that's a bit more of a basic for people that just want to subscribe. I build 6 different workouts you can choose from each week, because average people are going to be able to for sure do 2 to 3. If you're
days a week.
Yeah. And if you need more, then there's 6. But you want to be able to do that for a whole month to get better, to progressive overload, to add weight to everything, and to, you know, really feel like, oh, I'm really getting stronger.
Right.
Then your program changes and you get another 6 workouts.
So my thing is
that's
like,
more basic for.
Sorry to interrupt you,
like you.
because I just want to get all your information. I want to steal it quick.
Yeah.
So like I would do, so if say I did 4 or 5 days in a row, like I know that you do these muscle groups together, but then these muscle groups together, but how often do you train them so you don't overwhelm them, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's like, do I do arms, so I do biceps and triceps in the same day, or do you do them separate, or do you do like your front muscles or your back muscles, or you do like how does I overthink things to the point where when I do anything, when it's editing the podcast, when it's serving a table, when it's going to the city for 2 days, and then organizing when I'm going to Costco, when I'm visiting this person, when I'm going to do this chore, when I'm going to visit that person, when I'm going to have dinner. Everything always has to kind of fit into like this flow state or this schedule. Right. So when it comes to like workouts and stuff, I don't know how to maximize the route. So I sometimes just won't do it because I don't know which one I should do. Yeah.
I think for a lot of athletes, especially say you want to be in shape for ski season.
Right.
But you want to also leave room to be able to ski a pow day and not be sore and not be tired.
Right. Like I don't want to just destroy myself and then go skiing and be like, oh, I can't turn.
Yeah, exactly. So the lead up to ski season, when people are training, you know, say from July till November, end of November, often I break it up as like 2 different lower body days, 2 different upper body days, or I'll do a full body where you're like working the back side of your legs and then the front side of your upper, and then vice versa. But as we come into this time, it's like nice to have, most people are like, I really need a couple like shorter at-home workouts that I can do after skiing or before skiing.
Right. And it could be the same thing too. Like I could have 2 different routines that I can do Tuesday and Thursday. I don't need to do a 6-day whatever.
I
it
do
can be
2
one
full
thing.
body days in the winter for all of my ski clients. I'm like 2 full body days where you're working different muscle groups that will combine each other, and at home where you're kind of refreshing those, but it's still some legs and core and arms, whatever. And are like, you don't need equipment at home.
Are they like the same ones? So like every Tuesday it's the same workout. Every Thursday
for a month
it's the same workout, right? So then so after like the 3rd one you're like, oh, I know
getting stronger.
I know, but for me it's like, oh, I know this is the next.
Oh, you'll know it off by heart by the 2nd week.
This is the next one. And so that's another thing too, right? It's like someone like, say I'm sitting in here at home and I talk to you about like loving the fact that I could go for an hour and I walk in and this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. And I got to get out. But when I'm at home and I'm doing this stuff, I'm like, all right, this one. Okay, now what's this one I got to do? And you got to look it up on your phone or your computer. And then you stop for like 2 minutes in between and you're trying to figure out.
I tell everybody to look the night before. I'm like, look at the videos if you don't know what something is, because there's always a how-to. So proper form happens, and then you go into your workout and you know what you're doing. So look at it before you go. You can input all the weight you did after. It doesn't need to be as you go.
Do you have like a program connected to it so you can like? That's another thing too. Is like spreadsheets.
No, it's a full app in itself.
Really?
So it's just,
is it your own
do
app?
a Bulgarian lunge, and then it's
Right.
like shows a video, and then it says you're gonna do 3 sets of 80 on each side.
Really?
And that's it. And then you put in your own weight.
Really?
So I can see, and I'll be like, oh, you haven't gone up in the last 3 weeks. Do you need to be on this a little more? How are things feeling? Like, I check in.
Oh, do people have to like tick off whether they did it or not?
They tick it off. I see it in the calendar. I give them a thumbs up. How did it go? And they're like, it was great. I can't wait.
And if they don't do
again.
it, you shame them a little bit.
100%.
Full
I'm like,
on
looks
guilt
like you
trip.
fell off the wagon. You good? But the beauty of this app is if it is customized for you. If you do the basics, it's $30 a month. You have your workouts. You do it on your own.
Right.
I'll check in once in a while. But if it's customized,
$1 a day.
yeah. And if
$1
it's
a day.
customized, it's a bit more. But we do a 40-minute assessment online where I walk you through all the movements so I can see how you squat, how you do a push-up, how you lunge, certain basic movements that I need to see before I program.
Right.
We go over any injuries, and then every 2 weeks we do a little check-in on the phone. And it's a lot more like, if you send me a video, I'm going to respond right away. It's like a text on my phone, and I'm like, oh, great, okay. So there is a lot more one-on-one, like hands-on coaching, even though I'm not there.
Yeah.
So that's great for a lot of people, and lucky for me, a lot of my ski friends are on that kind of program because they're like, I need it to be specific. I've had this knee surgery and I have this bad back. And
Yeah, you're training a handful of
Yeah.
people just in Whistler with like probably a combined close to 10 to 15 knee surgeries
100%.
out of like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy, and it's good. It's good for me because it dials me into, these are your individual needs. Your program's not going to be the same as this person's.
So I'm going to name some names. You're training Alex Armstrong.
Yeah.
Last year, like I guess a year ago now at IF3, she came and I was like, you look strong. She's like, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm in the gym like all the time.
Yeah.
You work with Alexi Godbout.
Yeah.
He's always a strong dude.
He's a jack dude.
He's
Yeah.
always been strong. He's been a professional skier since he was a teenager as well.
Yeah.
Like 20 years or something like
Yeah.
that.
Also had a lot of injuries, so he needs to be strong.
Right? So
Yeah.
him, you're working with Celeste too.
Celeste, yeah.
Who else have you got going on the program?
Anna Siegel. Did some work with Parker. Parker White.
You see,
Yeah, he used to send me a message of him being like, yeah, and he's all sweaty at like 10 p.m. just at his house in Baker because he's like, I have a couple kettlebells and some bands.
Yeah.
So I just made a program for him, and he's just like, he was stoked because he's like, I get pretty lazy. I have a pretty rough job. I do construction all day, but I need to be strong.
Right.
And so he was on that program, and it was so fun training him.
And that's good to know too,
Yeah.
because Parker's one of those like superhuman ability kind
Yeah.
of people where he'll show up to any event, whether it's
Yeah.
like a quarter pipe, a JPO Claire
Anything,
thing,
and
or
be
he'll
able
go
to
to
do it.
Kimbo sessions, or he'll go to a big mountain thing, and he'll
Yeah.
just destroy everyone.
Everybody.
He's quietly the best skier in the world, in my opinion.
Totally.
But he's just like, he's got his big old beer gut boiler, and he's just like,
I know, and he wasn't drinking for a bit this fall. Is pretty cool. I've known Parker since he was like 17, so it's
Right.
funny. It's
But you
obviously
know what I mean,
younger,
though. He's
but-
got he's probably one of the people that has the most natural ability of anyone I've
Yeah.
ever met in my
Yeah.
life. So to hear that he's actually working at staying strong,
Being
I'm like,
strong,
okay,
yeah.
cool. It's not just
It is good because I think you can only get away with that for so long,
right,
right?
right. Plus, he's getting a little older. Like we're all getting
Yeah.
older. Like
and he wants to look good for his cute little girlfriend.
yeah,
she's the best.
She is the best.
She's the best.
Yeah,
Sarah,
she's sweet.
yeah.
Shout out Sarah.
Yeah.
What's her art page?
Oh, well, she has Cactus Blue, and she does homemade like clay earrings and
Right,
stuff.
right.
It's so cool.
You have to go digging for it.
Yeah, Cactus Blue with a K in
All
the
right.
cactus though.
But yeah, so it's cool
Yeah.
to kind of see that and
Yeah,
understand
it
that.
is cool.
And like I want people to know that you're not just, you know, obviously you have the history of being able to do those things and you went to
Mm-hmm.
school for it, but now, you know, there's people in the industry that have to maintain and
Yeah.
want to stay strong. Are like, all right,
Totally.
we're gonna go to our girl here.
Yeah, and it gives people the opportunity to not. Lots of people have team trainers, but most people that live up here and are doing backcountry stuff, like you're not in a team. You're not. I was like, oh, I'd love to work with a team. I'm like, no, I'd like to work with athletes who are out there on their own every day, self motivating.
That need
because that's what
someone-
they need.
Yeah, I'll be their team.
Yeah, right.
So people that want to, that are people like me that are like, man, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to choose. And it's also, there's just such a massive, like, choice. There's like we're spoiled for choice.
There is a big choice.
So how do you choose? I always like this analogy. Like, you can walk into a grocery store and look at an aisle and there'd be like 20 toothpastes.
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus, do I go with whitening? Do I go with the tartar control? Do I go with the mint one? Do I go with this charcoal one? Do I go with the basic?
In this case, you choose the girl that used to do the sport you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And still does it. And has had 3 blown knees and knows how to rehab them. And
exactly.
Broken collarbones and scapulas and all the things, right?
Does this sound like you?
Yeah. Does this sound like you? Have you had any of these?
So where do people find Freestyle Fit?
Freestyle Fit. FreestyleFit.ca and Instagram's just freestyle_fit.
Freestyle_fit. Did you do? It's like was it Black Friday? Was this weekend? Do you do any sales or anything like that, or any specials?
That was a good idea. I usually do a holiday one, like a New Year one, like get ready for starting the new year.
Do you want to do an LPP one?
Yeah, we should.
All right.
Let's definitely do that. Let's do 15% off when you order a personalized program with the code Freestyle Fit.
Had you thought about this?
Right? No, but that's great. We should do that. We should
do
that for sure. We'll put a link on it.
Absolutely. I'll put it in the YouTube comments and on the
put it into your promo code at the end.
Fantastic.
Love that.
15% off a freestyle your first Freestyle Fit program.
All 3 months, 15% off. Not just one, all 3. We'll do all 3.
That's like 45% off.
It's pretty good.
If you're not good at math like me.
Yeah, and the reason we say like do it, I have 1 month at a time, but 3 months is really where you really start to feel a difference in your body, and you really start to see the difference, and all of the movements that you've gone through kind of come together, and you're comfortable. So that's kind of
I find that
basics.
like that's helpful. I find that like I've always been active my whole life, and there's been times when I've been gymming or CrossFitting or just active. And like last year during the winter, doing a lot of sitting at the desk, I stopped serving tables, so I wasn't walking for 8 hours a night or 6 hours a night, and I started to get a little. Plus, I'm a little older now too. I'm in my I'm in stage 40s.
Stage 40s.
Level 40s.
It's okay. We're awesome.
And so I'm starting to like get a little soft, right? And I was like, oh, this isn't good. But I find that like as soon as I start working out again, it's like your body has been there and it knows, so it comes back.
It does.
Quick.
It does. Just stick with a routine. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, this is why you're doing this, because I'm going to be like, what happened? Where you been? Yeah. So it's good. Accountability coach is like the main thing. And if something's not working, we do it again.
Personal training and accountability coaching. That would get me going. Absolutely. I'm going to do it. We've been talking about it.
We're going to do this.
Although we talked about it for like the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweet, winter's coming. I got tons of time. It's like 6 weeks to go. I'm like, oh, now it's 5 weeks. And then
we're here.
And the other day it was like, shit, the mountain opens in 3 days. I should do some squats.
Right.
But I'm always doing some sort of like mobility and like minor strength, but like little bits here and there. But it wasn't anything consistent.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons the other day I was like, oh, I'm gonna get Dania on the show. Yeah. So I want to steal her secrets. But also now that the season has started. Yeah. It doesn't mean that because the season started that like, oh, I missed from getting ready for the season. Now I'm skiing. Oh, whatever. I don't need to do that now because I'm going to get skiing strength. No.
This is when it should be like the most prevalent in your day. Because like it's how you train, not what you're training. It's like during the ski season, we all want to have our legs ready for a POW day or a touring day. But it's how you train. It's continuing your mobility. It's continuing to keep your core and your glutes strong. It's like the stuff you don't want to leave behind.
And when you're skiing and you're not strong, you ski lazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like I had some glute issues that my glutes weren't firing, and then the strain was going into my IT band and my lower back, and then it got to a point where they just got so over fatigued and so overstrained that I couldn't ski like 3 rounds without not being able to putting weight under my leg. Yeah. I was like, what is wrong? And they're like, that's all you get, dead butt syndrome. Or flaccid ass, and I'm like, oh, so now I got a booty band. I do as many squats as I can, and it helped, but I need to get a little bit.
And it's like that's what the first thing everybody's like, oh, I got to get strong. I better do squats. It's like that's like there's other things, right? Because you think about when you watch a ski movie and you're seeing these guys charge big lines and big pillows and how they're landing. It's like, if they don't have core strength, they're just head into their knee. If they're not firing when they're touring uphill and their hips are doing all the work because their glutes aren't working, they're going to be in so much pain the next day in their back. And then
this guy.
Yeah, and it's
your butt needs to pull the leg back rather than your hip lift the leg
exactly.
up, right?
And being in heavy BC POW, like sometimes you got to lean back. If you got any sort of knee pain, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to train your knees over your toes. You got to train your glutes in the right way. And our quads are definitely more dominant than most people's hamstrings. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I'll go deadlift. And it's like, well, what about from knee flexion, not just hip? Like, there's so many components to why you continue to train.
You hear that, people? There's so much. 15% off your first 3.
Right?
Promo code LPP.
And I think it's good.
We'll set that up.
At home or the gym. That's the best part about it.
And that's one of the reasons I got you in here, is because I've been talking about it. I'm like, but I haven't followed up to the point where I was like, I need to do this. Well,
so just get me on here and then we'll do it.
I need to do this. Right?
Hold you accountable.
Maybe I'll
They can.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening and ask you in a month, have you gotten on it yet?
All right. Well, you've been up the hill a couple times already.
Yep.
And then, so how much skiing do you think you get in a week in between all this stuff?
What do you mean? Like just in
how much? How many times do you think? How many think you're going to be able to go up without like in between having to work and stuff?
That now that I live in Squamish, I'm going to be up there like 4 days a week, at least 2 afternoons. Like try to get all my work done Tuesday, Thursday mornings, and like go up for afternoon.
You got to start organizing boot camps in Whistler, so you have a
reason.
Yeah. Oh, I got a class at 8.
Yep. I want to coach for momentum a little over the holidays because you get to skip the line and ski with like cool kids that know how to ski.
Oh, they do winter coaching too?
They do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, if anyone's listening wants to do adult camps or kids camps, that's what they do all winter. It's great. It's really, they do a good job. And, John's a good boss. I've worked for him for a million years.
Yeah,
so, I think, that's my hope. And if it's ever going to dump, it is so nice to be close because I can tell my clients, they're all the people that I do coach in the mornings or have check-ins with, they're all skiers.
Do you have a 20 centimeter?
I'm going to.
A 20 centimeter rule? Like, hey, there's no workout today.
I am going to. Most of my clients will fully understand because most of them are skiers. And it's going to be like, so guys, we're going to have to move things to tomorrow or later this evening. Got to go ski. And everyone's going to be like, me too.
20 centimeter rule. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. If people in the States, sorry if it's not a POW day there, but it is here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Check it with me later. Well,
flexibility.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think it's important that people, I think a lot of people are like me and they're like, I should.
Yeah.
But they don't really take the initiative to do it because sometimes you just need to be handed it.
Yes.
I need someone I need her to hear, or I need someone to be like, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Because everyone's busy, everyone's got a million and one things to do in their lives. So in order to add one more thing, without really having a solid grasp or plan, it's easy to just not do.
It's very easy, and that's also why I have the basic subscription. If people already know what they're doing and they're generally pretty darn healthy,
they just need a guide.
You just go on there and you have 6 to choose from. You do maybe 3 this week and 3 next week, and then go back to the first 3 and then the second 3, and then it changes. It's like a very easy, cheaper alternative for people that are like, I'm kind of on a budget, but I really need a coach because then I'm still there.
There you go.
So it's good.
Right on. Freestyle Fit. Thanks, Dania.
Yeah. Welcome. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers. This has been a Redmark Media production.